and financial records that prove this. Yet no one in the media, no one on the Senate or House Intelligence Committee, and not the President of the United States has seen any of this alleged proof. So what we have here is an allegation based on the assessment of the intelligence agencies who are holdovers, in this case, from Barack Obama. I categorically deny this. Paul Manafort, the chairman of the Trump campaign, has as well. The real issue here, in my opinion, is that Donald Trump does not want to go to war with the Russian state over Syria. He favors détente in hard-headed negotiations with President Putin in the hopes that we could live in peace and perhaps work together to crush ISIS.
All right, accusing Russia of meddling in the domestic affairs of other states without any proof is becoming something of a global trend, with several countries now following America's lead. Miguel Francis Santiago has commentary.
The Russians hacked the U.S. election? Nope. It goes much deeper than that. The Russians apparently have hacked the world. Oh yes, according to the French newspaper Le Monde, an unnamed Western intelligence agency believes Russia to be behind a recent OSCE cybersecurity attack. That's right. For concrete proof, another, as always, unnamed source. So what are Russian hackers targeting now? Well, it seems Europe. You're next. At least if you believe ex-U.S. Justice Department official John Carlin, who says it's time for Europe to panic. And EU officials have bought into his claims. France is now fearing Russia meddling in its presidential election. The small details of how and why are still unclear, but President Francois Hollande has warned Russia, don't even think about it. Even Italy says it found Russian fingerprints on a cyber attack from last year. And it doesn't end there. We have Sweden, Norway, the Netherlands, Montenegro, Bulgaria, and of course, Germany. Now, is there anything that happens in the world today that isn't Russia's fault? Yes, there is. Let's rewind back to Germany for a sec. The country's intelligence was certain that Russia was interfering in its politics. But lo and behold, apparently none of those fears were backed up by actual intelligence. So the question, is Putin really this puppet master able to influence governments and most advanced countries in the world through the use of some teenage hackers? While recent leaks suggest the CIA spied on the former and current presidents during the 2012 French election. And let's not forget WikiLeaks also revealing the CIA phone tapping of Angela Merkel and French President Hollande. France's foreign minister, Jean-Marc Ayrault, just recently condemned any interference in the French election. He said, "We will not accept any interference whatsoever in our electoral process, whether by Russia or any other state." Okay, Mr. Ayrault. Will you respond to documented interference or keep playing the blame Russia game? Miguel Francis Santiago, RT.
Up next on RT International, one man's journey to answer his mother's questions about the financial crisis and its impact on Southern Europe. And if you're watching us in the UK and Ireland, it is Comedy Show News Thing with Sam Delaney. Stay with us.
Here's what people have been saying about Redacted tonight. Give it to us. Redacted is full-on awesome. So the only show I go out of my way to watch every week. It really packs a punch. Lee Camp is the John Oliver of RT America.
You guys do have the same accent.
Hey, we are apparently better than boobs.
Nothing's better than boobs.
You see, people you've never heard of love Redacted tonight. The president of the World Bank, though, hates it.
He doesn't really have any taste.
Seriously, he sent us an email.
People with stories to tell. Those who deserve to be heard.
In which the fear of
studied inside out, but still with unrevealed secrets. Leaders, politicians, thinkers, and witnesses. They're here to speak. Are you there to hear?
You know what you will never, ever, ever see on American mainstream media?
You won't hear it anywhere else.
This story was almost completely left out of the Western mainstream press.
You won't see it anywhere else.
This is not talked about on CNN because it's not allowed.
You won't see it anywhere else.
Things you'll hear on Crosstalk.
What politicians do is something we don't do. They put themselves on the line, and they get accepted or rejected. So when you want to be president, why would you want to be? Why would someone want to be president? What's it like to be president? What's it like when the phone rings at 3 in the morning? Can't be a good call. I'm interested always in the whys and the hows.
And cue Larry.
Question more.
Welcome to Spain, my friends, the world's leading flamenco nation. Almodovar, Nadal, paella, sun and beaches. In a word, paradise. And our numbers aren't too bad either. 8 years of crisis, 1,900 people defending against political corruption cases, and 100 billion spent on rescuing the banks. And the party goes on, friends. 400,000 evictions, child poverty is running at 36%, and over 5 million people are unemployed. It's a non-stop happy hour. But enough of the figures, and let's introduce some names. This is what we call a scam. My name is Arturo Cisneros, producer, documentary filmmaker, and these days I seem to collect rejection letters too. I lost my business, and in all probability the bank will repossess my home like many others who also have names. Not everything is lost though. I was given a new membership card for the select club of 5, the more than 5 million unemployed. And, despite all my misery, I have new followers. My bank, for example. Now that I have no money, it cares about me more than ever. And the president of my fan club is Cristina, my former mother-in-law.
Arturo,
Cristina.
¿qué haces?
Sí.
¿Qué tal estás? Ay, si ya me he enterado que has dejado la empresa. Ya te lo decía yo, que eso de hacer películas y organizar conciertos no era un trabajo serio.
Y qué disgusto para tus padres. ¡Ay! ¡Qué disgusto!
Sobre todo a tu madre, que contigo se ha ganado el cielo. Así que te vas al pueblo a vivir con ellos. Pero qué paciencia tienen. Y míralo por el lado bueno. Ahora que mi hija te ha dejado, tienes menos preocupaciones.
Cristina, que te tengo que dejar.
I do love her, but, well, she's the kind of person who, when you're right on the edge of a cliff, that's when she'll give you a pat on the back. But my ex-mother-in-law was right. I was just hiding away at my parents' home, taking in the tranquility of our village, to see if I could focus on and put together a documentary about all my misfortunes. If I do, the proper genre for the film will be psychological terror. My parents, Austen and Fulchen, the two people I have always trusted the most.
Aquí. Arturo. A ver, que te va a dejar la mitad, Arturo.
Vale, sí.
Que
They'd even kept my room exactly as I left it 25 years ago. Heavy metal posters and photographs with my hairy friends. But of course, it didn't help much going back to my old teenage retreat, with no job, no money, and no hair. Actually, less hair than a bowling ball. The atmosphere in the village didn't help much either. As they say, when you're trying to forget something, that's when everyone reminds you about it.
Precio del gasoil, para arriba. Precio del cereal, para arriba. El cereal está cotizando en bolsa. Y ya en el momento de que empieza un alimento a cotizar en bolsa, ya sabes lo que es. Especulación.
But how is it that the price of food for one set of animals is decided by another set of animals who've never even seen a cow, not even on Wikipedia?
¿Qué vida te espera con 4 sinvergüenzas que se llevan todo y nos van a matar de hambre?
Oye, Arturo, estoy pensando que has cerrado la empresa, te has tirado un paro. ¿El dinero dónde está? Con la crisis que hay, ¿dónde está el dinero?
That was the moment I knew I had no way out. I had to give my mother answers, not lies. It's not right to lie to a woman who never cheated anybody. Well, not often, and hardly anyone. In any case, when your mother asks you something, you have to find an answer, come what may. So, with the last of my savings, I set out on a journey to meet experts who could explain things in a language my mum could understand. I started in my hometown of Pamplona, at the School of Economics at the Public University of Navarra.
El dinero está atrapado, embalsado, amontonado en algunos lugares en manos de pocas personas. Es decir, el problema no es que no haya dinero, el problema no es el crecimiento del Producto Interior Bruto, el problema es que hay una desigualdad insoportable.
From Pamplona, I went to Madrid, thinking that money might be a bit like cholesterol. Too much of it can kill you. God's punishment. I needed more information, and because whenever you talk about money in Spain, the Catalans come up, I headed for Barcelona.
Su madre hace una pregunta extremadamente importante. ¿Y dónde está el dinero? El dinero está súper concentrado, tanto aquí en España como en Alemania.
Para que lo entienda tu madre, los recortes no son ni necesarios ni imprescindibles. Son consecuencia de un modelo de sociedad que no es el que tu madre, tú y yo queremos.
Cristina, macho, eso Cristina, estoy ocupada.
Porque por ahí hay mucha gente mucho peor que tú. Y otros se suicidan. Pero tú anímate, mi chico, que algo ya saldrá,
Vale,
ya
vale,
verás.
te llamo en otro momento.
Que yo ya voy a rezar por
Venga,
ti.
yo también te quiero, Cristina. Chao, chao. Perdona.
Bueno, sí. Para que lo entienda tu madre y tu ex-suegra. Me preguntabas al principio, ¿dónde está el dinero? El dinero está estancado en los paraísos fiscales, aunque luego vuelve al juego en forma de préstamo para que tú puedas seguir vivo, pero se lo debes. Le debes tu vida entera. Tú, el otro y el de la moto. Tu madre también debe su vida entera porque toda la deuda que tenemos como Estado se la debemos en estos momentos a los paraísos fiscales o al dinero que está allí acumulado en pocas manos.
El capital financiero está dominando el mundo.
Ruling the world plus financial capital equals the United States of America. So I went to Washington, D.C. to meet Mark Weisbrot, co-director of the Center for Economic and Policy Research, to see if he could give me an understandable explanation for Mum.
I think the problem is that you have these authorities, these unaccountable authorities in the Eurozone. You have the European Commission, the European Central Bank and the International Monetary Fund, the Troika as it's called, and they're making the economic decisions, and nobody votes for them. And that's the real problem.
Look, Mum, money is spread around like this. A few of us have some money. Well, actually quite a lot of us only have a very tiny share of the money. Then, there are lots of others who have nothing at all, and I mean nothing. Then there are a few, just a very few, who have more money than anyone could possibly count without suffering brain damage. And Mum, those few are the people in charge. They control the banks, and through the banks, they control the politicians too. As for the rest of us, well, we just have to cope with the mess the best we can. That's why when they tell us to be good citizens, we go and vote, and this is what really happens to our vote. Whoever has the money also has the real control. I can't tell Mum all that. There have to be other answers. While in Washington, I tried to arrange interviews at the World Bank and IMF, but no luck there. They didn't answer my emails or phone calls, not when I visited in person. But, at least, I had a title for my psycho-terror movie, The Silence of the Bankers. Running away from that silence, I reached Karen Hude's home. She was a legal advisor to the World Bank for 21 years. Karen welcomed me into her home and shared some very useful information to help me understand how the big monsters work in the world economy.
Hello, Karen.
I am a lawyer and an economist, and I have been working in the money centers of the world. And I have been finding out that they are not what they say they are. It took me many years to find out what they really are.
I wonder where you are, Mum. Well, maybe it's for the best that she's not answering. She won't get depressed from everything I've learned. From Washington, I moved on to Boston, where I sneaked into the School of Economics at Harvard, the most prestigious university in the world. And, according to Richard Freeman, with a business school that's at the heart of all the world's greed. I hope he can offer some simpler answers, because my mum's not ready for a master's in economics.
The $1 million question, that's peanuts for the guys who really have the big money. $10 million for them is peanuts. You're talking a massive amounts of money in the hands of a very small number of people, and a large number of them are in the finance sector, the big banks that have tanked the economy and that we all have paid a price to bail out and get them operating again.
La banca alemana presta dinero a la banca española, que junto con el dinero que tiene de los superricos españoles, invierte en el sector inmobiliario. Pero llega un momento que la banca alemana le entra pánico porque se ha dado cuenta que está contaminada con los productos tóxicos de la banca estadounidense. Y cuando le entra pánico, deja de prestar a España. Y ahí es el colapso de la burbuja inmobiliaria.
El mercado inmobiliario funciona como un mercado financiero, no es un mercado que funcione por la ley de oferta y demanda, como se ha dicho muchas veces. Es decir, en España se construyeron durante el 95 y el 2007, parece que anda sobre los 7-8 millones de viviendas. Realmente el número de hogares que se crean, no sé si fueron 2 o 3. ¿Por qué crece tanto el precio de la vivienda? Pues no crece porque se demande más vivienda para vivir en ella, sino porque las expectativas del crecimiento del precio de la vivienda, expectativas de revalorización, han permitido que entre muchísimo capital a comprar. Funcionaba básicamente como un mercado de acciones. Por eso el mercado inmobiliario es un mercado financiero.
The
stalemate that now Ukraine faces in Donbass is hurting Ukraine the most, primarily because Ukraine is not economically developing, investments, foreign investments are not coming into the country, capital flows continue, economic instability continues, and most importantly, corruption actually is increasing because the current political elites are using the war in order to add money to their bank accounts.
You see, Mum, money goes around like this. 0.01% make up the super rich, and they invest in the banking system. And because banks are in the business of making money grow, they lend to us at crippling interest rates. Then we end up being slaves to our debt. So the people who already have a lot make even more, and the rest of us end up with less and less because their motto is, the bigger the debt, the bigger the profits. So they inflated the house prices and encouraged us to borrow more money than we needed. So many of us took the bait, in my case, like a fool. I worked and I paid, worked and paid until the day I lost my job. But how did we get to this point? That's because the whole thing went wrong. The 40 thieves took money out of the real economy, and when the bubble burst, they said, "Close sesame," and left thousands of people with no jobs, and in many cases with no homes. But then our politicians stepped in, always keen to ensure the country's stability. They popped up and changed the constitution. Now public money could be used to bail the banks out of the mess they were in. And from banks, that money went back, with extra interest, to the super rich, so everyone was happy. Well, not quite everyone.
Ausen, ¿a ti te parece que este hijo nuestro encontrará el dinero?
Encontrar, ya lo encontrará. Ahora ya veremos a ver si le dejan cogerlo.
Yo también ya pienso eso.
The part of the problem is that we deregulated Wall Street under President Clinton with the guidance and support of some economists who believed that the market was going to work perfectly. This was a foolish mistake. They also, of course, were being, they had rich ties to the big financial firms. And made large sums of money, which does not mean that they were being bribed. It's just that if I express some views, the rich, the bankers, and the people will want to make my research better known.
Y que muchas veces ese crecimiento de la deuda ha sido totalmente irresponsable. Es decir, se sometía a la economía a unos riesgos brutales. Lo hemos visto con las hipotecas subprime y con tantos otros casos. Lo hemos visto también, por ejemplo, con toda la especulación de la deuda pública, los títulos soberanos, ¿no? en estos últimos años de crisis. Por lo tanto, lo que tenemos que pensar es que si la deuda es un mecanismo de sujeción política, tenemos también que pensarla en términos políticos. y que, por ejemplo, le podemos aplicar auditorías de la deuda, auditorías ciudadanas de la deuda. Es decir, determinar qué deudas se ha contraído en condiciones legítimas y cuáles no.
Look, Mum, this is how the rescue of private banks worked out, and how it left all of us broke. Our politicians borrowed money from the European Central